Hello, and welcome back to Luke-N-SHAE'S place. I'm Shay,
I'm Luke.
and thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, though, Luke, can you tell them what we need them to do?
We need you to like, subscribe, and share.
Please like, subscribe, and share.
We need all the subscribing and sharing and liking we can get right now. We are a young, up and coming podcast, so we need all the love. So whatever love you can give, by all means, give us the love. We need it. Like, subscribe, and share.
Okay, so
Okay.
today I think we
got a
are
red heart letter.
Red Heart Letter. So from time to time, we'll be getting letters from some of our viewers, and we call it our Red Heart Letter segment. And what we'll do is we'll read it. It's an anonymous letter, and we'll have a discussion, or if it's a question, we'll try to answer the question. And let's get to it.
Okay, we have a question today, and someone wrote in a question. The question is written: you've been dating someone for 2 months. You text, talk on the phone. You have plenty of sex. You've never been on a date. How would you define this relationship?
Okay, so you're saying, read that again.
Okay, let me give it to you one more time. You've been dating someone for 2 months. You text and talk on the phone. You have plenty of intimacy. You've never been on a date. How would you define this relationship?
Okay, so that part. See, I thought at first, that's why I asked you to read it again. I thought it was just they text and talk a lot on the phone. Now, at that, I was going to say, wow, that's great. You know, you're getting to know each other with the texting and talking for 2 months. You're getting to know someone. But when you added that they have plenty of intimacy, they've been intimate.
That's right.
Now that, and they've never gone anywhere.
Never been on a date.
Never been on a date, but they've been intimate. And it says plenty of intimacy. So I would have to define it as that's all it is. Because if we're obviously seeing each other. It's not just texting and talking, which that would have been great, getting to know someone for the first 2 months. But when you're intimate and it says plenty of intimacy, then I'm thinking, and you haven't gone out on a date, it's looking like it's more so what we call a booty call. That just sounds more like...
It can't be a booty call because they've been talking for the last 2 months. A booty call generally is a long-term relationship, but it's both parties already know it's only sex.
Okay.
But with this, which makes this a little different, is that there's some parts of it that could be in a relationship because she's saying they talk and text a lot, but they have never been out on a date. So that redefines this whole idea of what this actual relationship is. If it was a booty call, it would be like, okay, we both agree. That's what they call cut buddies. They got another word for it, but friends with benefits. But that's entirely different from this because she's saying they actually talk a lot more than and text with each other. So that means that could be all day long texting, but they have never been on a date. So it sounds like a relationship in which, and I wouldn't say it's only about sex, but it sounds like somebody's getting hornswoggled.
Well, that's what I was saying. Well, I mean, I could see where you're saying, okay, not a booty call, but to me, it sounds like that's all it is sex. It's not anything else. We're not going out. We're not going out to dinner. We're not, it doesn't even say that we're actually spending time together, whether that be movie time or maybe a game night together. It sounds like when we're getting together, we're having sex, but we're not doing anything else. We might talk on the phone, and then you have to wonder, is the talking on the phone, is it all about just that? Because is that all we're talking about? Hey, I can't wait till you come over because then this is going to happen.
I think she's more concerned with what type of relationship is she in.
It sounds like the only relationship that sounds like she's in a relationship or whoever. It sounds like they're in a relationship that is just predicated off of intimacy. That's all it is. There's no other foundation to it. That's what it sounds like it is. Every time we get together, that's what we're doing.
Well, see, that's the whole thing. That's what she's not saying, because the person is looking at it from a different perspective. What they want to understand is, how would you define this type of relationship? Does it look like it's a thriving relationship?
No.
Can it grow? But in my mind, like I said, it sounds like the person is, I want to say hornswoggle. I did say that earlier, but it does sound like the person is not getting the best of the relationship if there is no real going out. But I still can see where the relationship could work, because if neither one of the people are caught up in going out. Okay, and that's rare. That will be totally rare in that process. Maybe they haven't been going out for that reason. Maybe it was just electrical from the beginning. I don't know. But at the same time, and talking to the person, I'm just giving that to the person. But to me, as a person, that if I was in this relationship, I would look at it just a little bit different, because it just sounds like the person is using one of the persons in there. And it's according to how this works, whether it's the man or the woman, I don't know, but I've been saying she, but at the same time, if it's a man, well, the woman is using you, and well, I can't really say using, because it's still sexual. I will look at it more so if the man, in that sense, was going out and he was paying for these dates and wasn't getting them in return. But this sounds more like a woman, because they're having the sex, but they're not doing any of the things that would lock her in as far as like the relationship.
Now, before you go further, now you just said something like, okay, so if it was a man, he would be getting used if he was taking her out on dates and not getting anything in return. So let's touch on that. That's how it would be seen. So let's touch on that a little bit, because that's interesting. So if going on dates, I mean, not to get too far off topic, but because you said it, I wanted to touch on that. So he would be getting used if he was going on dates and not getting anything in return. So that kind of takes away from, how are we going to date? Okay, we can date, but if something is expected after that, maybe these people just decided to let's skip over the dinner process and get to the main course. Maybe they were into the intimacy part, but there needs to be communication, because we received a letter about this. So that tells me someone is not really sure if this is all it is. That means they want more. So I would suggest communication. I would suggest communication with with your mate, the person that you've been dating for 2 months. But the communication,
for 2 months, you text and talk on the phone, so they are talking.
No, I'm talking about communicate about this. Like, you reached out to us, and you're wondering what kind of relationship this is. Sit down and have that conversation with the person that you're in this relationship with, and say, hey, what are we? That's not a hard question to ask.
Well, it is a hard question to ask. Again, which party's asking the question? In this case, it sounds more like the woman, because this sounds like a young lady in that sense, because the lady's asking the question because she's saying she's having the sex, and she's actually they're just not going out on dates. And with that being said, she's asking that question, what does it sound like to you? Because like I said, it sounds like she wants more, and the person doesn't. Well, I mean, if he asks for more, maybe they caught in between at that I want to call it, where you in that stage where you're not calling each other boyfriend and girlfriend, but you're doing things that the boyfriend and girlfriend does. And so now she kind of stuck in that spot where we don't know where it's at. And I'm afraid to ask the question, because I don't want the person to think I want more, or, in that case, and we were talking about another question earlier, where the person is putting it on the person, and it seems like the person wants more out of the relationship than you.
Well, that's something that you need to discuss in the beginning, because that needs to be said now. It's still early in the relationship, and it should have been discussed earlier on. But that's the thing.
Once you start having the sex, that's the part.
So you're sealing the deal without sealing the deal. In other words, you didn't have a discussion and say, "Hey, what are your your future, what does your future look like with me? What is, are you looking to date long term? Are you looking to have marriage in your future? Because that's important, because at the end of the day, the other person might just be there for that, you're fulfilling their need when it comes to the bedroom. But what about anything else that has to do with?
They actually are fulfilling both of their needs, because she's not saying she don't want it. So with that being said, obviously her needs are being filled in this. So now the question is, what type of relationship is she in? Is this a healthy relationship? I don't know.
I don't think it is. I would say
think
no.
all of it falls in the part of,
I think it's just a sexual relationship. There's nothing else. That's all we are. And like I said, usually when you have this kind of relationship, the texting and talking that he or she is talking about is probably sexual. It's probably just, hey, I can't wait to see you tonight because this is going to happen. It's like everything we do is based off of our actions, which is sex. We're not talking about the movie we've seen together because we didn't see any movie. We're not talking about that nice meal at the cafe that we had because we never went on a date and had any of these things. So the only conversation I see in this is, okay, we're texting and talking about sex, and when we get together, that's all we're having is sex. It just looks like it's just a sexual relationship. Take that sex away and see if that mate or that person is even going to stay around.
But see, that's the whole thing. The question is, for the people who just coming in or didn't hear the question earlier, you've been dating someone for 2 months. You text and talk on the phone. You have plenty of intimacy. You've never been on a date. How would you define this relationship? Well, we would define it as being a sexual relationship. Can a sexual relationship work? I don't know. So, like I said, in this case right here, the chemistry might be on fire. I don't know. But that is so much left out of this question. There's so many questions I would need to ask the person on this that I can't really define what the relationship is. I mean, because if you're cool with not dating and not going out, well, yeah, you're in a good relationship. If that's not your cup of tea and that's not that other person's cup of tea, the one that you're dating. So, yeah, I can understand that. But I understand, well, like I said, it sounds like you're caught in a crossroad here. You're sounding like you want more because you're asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a discussion that you need to have with the mate.
Yes.
To understand where that relationship is going, what direction you want to go in, and how it can be filled out.
Yes.
But if you, as the listener, have an answer, would like to give an answer, we would like to read a comment.
Yeah.
And we'll post the question down in the comment section.
And I have more to say about that because, and I'm just going to assume it is the woman. I don't know, because women, we bond with sex. So with that being said, if that is the case, it could have started off with, okay, the texting and talking, fine. And then when you introduce sex into the relationship, now that could be making her bond to him. And now she needs to know, what direction is this going in? Is this going to be something that's going to lead into a relationship? But you have to talk about it now because it's still early on in a relationship. You're 2 months into this relationship. You don't want to be led on and then you're starting to have these feelings and the other person is just okay with coming over, and or you're going over there and the sheets are the only thing that you guys have any interaction in. If you want to be able to go out and do things with this person, if you see yourself having a future with this person, now is the time to communicate. I don't know. You're saying dates and you know, whoever. Hopefully nobody's being used in this situation. The talk should have came before that. And at the end of the day, because I didn't do it, I always promote that. Don't get between the sheets. Get that ring first. You know, we really shouldn't be sampling it. Well, sampling the product before we get the ring. That's another discussion for another day. Because
that's another discussion question.
Oh,
whether
yeah.
or not you should have sex.
Yes.
Before marriage.
That's a good question.
A lot of people look at that differently if you already had sex.
Yes.
And so that's different.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, we're not talking to no vert.
No, but for our future generations to come, yes, for our future generations to come, because our generation kind of went away from that, that whole thing. There's a lot of people that believe that you can't get married until you sample the product. I don't know. Years ago, there was arranged marriage. Your parents picked your husband or your wife.
Man,
so
I don't think it's the sampling. It's the fact that we don't know what you're getting, and you've already done it.
And if you've already done it, that's different.
At this point, now it's different. I need to know what I'm getting if that's the case. And I can understand it from a spiritual standpoint. You would want to wait and do all of these things, but God would have preferred you have done it from the beginning, yes. When we were virgins. But at the same time, now that you've already eaten the fruit, that is different. You look at it differently.
Well, you look at it different, but in the same breath, you still you don't want to just keep giving that up. That's something that at some point in your life, you have to say, look, let me do it this way. And that's a conversation with the mate. Not everybody's going to be for that. Not everybody, but in this person's situation, I think a conversation, that's what everybody should have. A conversation needs to happen.
She does need to converse with a man or the person she's in a relationship with. But yeah, that's a whole nother question in itself. So like I said, we're going to wrap this up right here, and we'll be doing more videos within the near future. We're going to throw a couple more. Anyway, but we got something we need to get out here. But this was an interesting question, and definitely we would like to see how you guys feel.
Yes, please comment on it. Tell us how you feel about it. What do you think? Again, the question is, you've been dating someone for 2 months. The person's been dating someone for 2 months, and you text and talk often on the phone. You have plenty of sex, and you've never been on a date. How would that define that relationship? How would you define that relationship? Someone who's texting and talking, they have intimacy every time that they see each other, but never been on a date. What would you define that as far as a relationship?
Well, that sums it up right there. And we look forward and look to you guys for the next episode of the LUKE-N-SHAE'S place.
Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you guys.